What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with a Star Wars Vintage Collection market update. And I think 2022 is going to be kind of an inflection point for the Vintage Collection. We certainly are doing just fine on the new releases. We have a ton of new content coming out from Hasbro that is just all being released at the same time. We had a great month of December with lots of pre-orders hitting, and all the pre-orders for next year were also hitting. So I've got like 18 figures coming next week from Big Bad Toy Store, and it's awesome. But the interesting thing is the last 2 or 3 months of 2021, we saw a pretty dramatic drop in prices for the Vintage Collection. Compounded by a number of factors. I think that is what we just talked about. There was a number of new items that were available through the Bring Home the Bounty kind of promotion that Hasbro was doing. So many pre-orders hit in the month of December that, I think a lot of folks were a little hesitant to buy any additional resale type items, given that they are going to be pre-ordering a lot of stuff. And while for most of those pre-orders don't really hit your account until they actually ship, it's kind of daunting looking at the amount of stuff that I bought and trying to think about, well, do I want to go back and get a TVC 1.0 General Grievous right now, even though 2 really nice ones sold this month? And my answer was no. I've got too many other items between pre-orders for next year and then the pre-orders that I've made over the last 3 or 4 months, all hitting in December. So that really hurt it. And then all the reissues that were announced for last year have really hurt. So I don't know what's going to happen with the Vintage Collection in terms of resale prices for next year and whether we see a bump back up again. But I wanted to pull up a number of sales for not only TVC 1.0 from 2010 to 2012, but also some of the newer releases like the Target exclusive droids, the Bad Batch figures, and just talk broadly about them. Is the Vintage Collection going to go the way of where everyone overpays up front for new releases and pays 2 or 3 times market retail price just because they're so anxious to get those new figures in hand, and then the prices settle back down again? And is that what the market is? I don't know, but there were a number of sales here of the last week or so for items that used to be pretty expensive that are really good deals right now. And let's start with this one. This is VC13, the Vintage Collection Ultimate Galactic Hunt Foil Anakin Skywalker with the Boba Fett offer. The foil card, obviously. That one sold for $100, but it was only one bid. One bid, and it looked to be in pretty darn good shape. And nobody was interested. So, this is a figure that would probably sell for quite a bit more than that 6 months ago. So one bid, free shipping. And, and then as an example of the other end of the spectrum, this one is the Revenge of the Sith Anakin with the Darth Vader name pill. We know that one's pretty expensive. We also know that this one very rarely is found unpunched. We saw that unpunched one go for big money. I don't remember the total now, but earlier this year I want to say it was in that 400 plus range. This one was $299, best offer accepted, and the best offer accepted was $275. So people are still willing to pay up for some of these, rarities that are out there. And maybe that's what the narrative is going to be in 2022, is that folks who collect the TVC 1.0 and are filling out their collections are, going for a full run, so to speak. And if they're willing to spend up for TVC 1.0 figures, it's probably going to be for ones that they know are not going to be released or not going to be released anytime soon. And maybe this Darth Vader name pill fits that bill. To me, this one screams like a really good one to maybe reissue or kind of reconfigure or come out with a new card back for the Obi-Wan series. Who knows? But this one is probably ripe for some kind of update. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. But it just seems like a good fit, given that Hayden Christensen is coming back as Darth Vader. And we've already got so many different Darth Vader figures already in the TVC line that they probably want to re-explore some of these Anakin figures from the Revenge of the Sith. So we'll see what happens there. Here's another good example. This was a beautiful foil clone Commander Cody. It looked to be in pretty excellent condition overall. That one was listed for only $155 and it sold for $140. Best offer accepted. So Clone Commander Cody will probably, I would think, get updated at some point. Maybe not. We've had a lot of Clone Troopers here lately. Between the Bad Batch 4-pack, we've had those online exclusive Clone Troopers that were all released, the Lambent and all that kind of... I can't pronounce his name, but there's got the Stealth Trooper, the Lambent, and all those other ARC Troopers that were available on Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth. So we've had a lot of Clone Troopers here lately, in addition to the kind of the regular releases and the regular release schedule. So they might hold off on any more clones for a while, but this is, maybe the market's thinking that Clone Commander Cody's coming back in an updated card back, and why bother, why bother paying up for some of these foil ones? I thought this was interesting. This was a Revenge of the Jedi Death Star set. I can't talk this morning, but this is the SDCC, 10 of them, set of 10, all unpunched, and obviously the photos go through each one of them individually. But that one sold for $450 on one bid, free shipping. But these are absolutely the Death Star ones, the Death Star SDCC set, because they don't have the paperwork inside the blister, and there's no, prototype Boba Fett offer sticker on the cards. But it's missing obviously Boba Fett, but that's a pretty decent price. I feel like $450. That's that works out to about $45 a piece for these. That's a pretty good price. But anyway, just another data point. And again, this is big money. $450. Admittedly for 10 figures, but $450 is a lot of money for vintage collection. So again, this could be an example where collectors are like, we're probably not going to see Revenge of the Jedi card back again. So, and these are, convention exclusives. So that might be what's driving the price there. Along with that, here was a Revenge of the Jedi, just the Boba Fett this time. And that one sold for $202 on free shipping. Pretty good shape overall, unpunched, and, really great shape. But $202 is a pretty good price for that Boba Fett. I mean, that was going for quite a bit more than that. I would say 300 plus earlier this year. So, again, more data that prices are coming down again. Here was a Revenge of the Jedi retail release with the Boba Fett offer sticker and the paperwork inside the blister. That one sold for $56. So a pretty low price there. Here's one. This is probably a pretty good example of a figure that's probably not going to get re-released anytime soon, if ever. And that's Oddball. And, the price point reflects that. It's, that one sold, it was unpunched. It sold for $100. I mean, that was not a $100 figure earlier this year, but it's been slowly creeping up, as a couple of you subscribers have mentioned in the comments in past videos, is that, Oddball continues to kind of creep up a little bit. This one even had a little bit of flaws to it. It still sold for $100. Here was a Revenge of the Jedi Luke Skywalker. Again, the retail release with the offer sticker, but that was sold for $28. It was unpunched. Pretty good shape overall. I had some minor dings, but I mean, $28 is a kind of an unheard of price, for that Luke. Maybe I'm missing something here, but that's, it's probably 85 condition, and a little bit of edge wear up there at the top near the hanger tab. But $28 with free shipping is pretty. I mean, you're not too far off from retail prices for some of these releases nowadays. Here's another one. I mean, VC44 Luke Skywalker Dagoba Landing. This is one of the more popular figures in the line, and probably not going to see an update or a re-release, I would think, anytime soon. Yet it was unpunched. Really pretty good condition overall. Probably an 85 plus condition. Very slight wave to the card, but that one sold for $77. That's even less than what I paid for mine a year and a half ago. So, I mean, that's a free fall type of price drop. I mean, this was going for $150, $190 even, and we're closer to a third of that, or half that. Another one that we've talked about already that has continued to drop in price, that's Mace Windu, an unpunched VC35. We know he's coming back as a re-release, and just like all of these figures that have seen re-release announcements, like Ahsoka and this Mace Windu, it looked to be in pretty good shape, and that still sold for only $90 plus $7 shipping. So, that was a $300 figure earlier this year. I mean, here's another ridiculous one. This is obviously never one that's been particularly expensive, but I mean, this was a first release General Lando unpunched, and it sold for $850 with free shipping. So, I mean, that's below retail price for even the re-release. So, I don't know what's going on and whether this is just seasonal, but as we've talked about with the vintage Kenner market, that market has not been affected by seasonality. It has not been affected by Christmas. And I think that there's a broader picture here in play here, that the vintage collection is seeing pretty massive price drops for the original releases. Here's one that's kind of, I don't know, held its own pretty good. That's a pretty decent price, $118 for a Canadian Darth Sidious. So Canadian card bag. This is VC12. This, I don't know if this is one of those ones that is very rarely unpunched, but this one even had a little bit of a crease on the back there, as you can see. But that's still sold for $118 US plus another $16 shipping. So that's maybe that's kind of the route that the vintage collection takes this year, is that people start to recognize the premium that should be attached to Canadian cards like this. We've talked about, many sources have told me that, the Canadian card backs, the original run, were kind of produced one for every 10 of the US cards. I don't know what the production is for the European card backs, because, they're really just the US cards with stickers on them. Over top the warning labels on the front, and then a European warning label on the back. But nevertheless, it's still, a card variant. And, at least thus far, you don't see a massive premium for any of the European cards, except for like ones like, Dr. Aphra VC129, where it's got no warning sticker, things like that. Very rare ones that are very clearly not produced in high numbers. But it just makes you wonder if Canadian and Eurozone card backs, card stickers will see a price appreciation among discerning collectors, as they realize that even with re-releases, you're not going to see a Canadian card back, you're not going to see a Eurozone sticker on the back of the new releases that are coming out, even if they're reissued characters. Here's one that I still, Weequay is kind of a conundrum wrapped in a riddle these days. We've seen it closer to this price. This one just sold for $170. Yet we've seen it also sell in same or similar condition, or if not better condition. This one had some slight edge wear at the bottom. We've seen it sell closer to $100. So, I mean, there's pretty wide price swings right now for Weequay. And, maybe the market's just trying to decide, are we going to see another one of these? Who knows? Or is it somebody filling out their collection and maybe not as price sensitive? Who knows? But it has not been a consistent price range for Weequay. It's been $100 to $170, and I consider that a pretty wide. I mean, you're talking a 70% price delta between the highs and the lows that we're seeing for the original Weequay right now. And again, it might be a factor of some people just not seeing the timeline in place for when this gets reissued. And I gotta believe that Weequay is pretty high on the reissue list, maybe in time for the Return of the Jedi anniversary in 2023. But here's another one that you would think maybe would see a little bit of a drop, given that they've been these figures are at least Fives and Echo have been re-released on individual card backs. But again, this is a special Hasbro Pulse exclusive, so these exclusives tend to hold their value for the most part. And this one's very consistently selling in that 150 to 180 range, and this one was no exception. We've documented a few of these over the last few weeks that have sold for that price point. Another vehicle that continues to sell really well and very high price is this one, the Vintage Collection Mandalorian AT-ST Raider. That one just continues to sell pretty consistently in that 185 price point. And so I don't know why people are bidding this one up, but that one has very consistently been selling in that price point. I've found a number of data points that support that 185 price point, or 175 to even as high as 190 price point. A couple of rocket firing FETs graded sold. I could not pull up the best offer that was accepted for this one because it was based in the UK, but this one was displayed with the mailer box sideways like that so you could read it. It was graded UKG 90. You can see that there. There's the label on it. A little bit of wave to the card, but that one was listed for £500, and that one sold for best offer accepted. But this one was a real shocker. This one was an AFA uncirculated 9.5 grade rocket firing FET. Here's the label on this one, uncirculated 9.5. So very high grade, very high grade. It was listed for $1,500, and best offer was accepted. I did look that one up, and that one sold for $1,010. So 1010 is what that one sold for. So, you know, again, maybe this is another premise that's kind of more in keeping with what we talked about for vintage Kenner items, is that discerning collectors are going to be willing to pay up for high-grade vintage collection, especially Boba Fett related. I mean, we all know how popular he is, and we all know about the Boba Fett tax. So this price even surprised me, though, to go from an AFA 9.0, which has been consistently selling in that, let's call it 350 to 400 range, all the way to just a, you know, a bump up to a 9.5. You're paying triple that. So it's what we've talked about for vintage Kenner, and it appears to still be the case for very popular figures within the vintage collection line, is that people are going to pay multiples for those very, very high grade, tough to get items in that high grade. I mean, the population report on AFA for AFA 9.0 uncirculated rocket firing Fets, I bet is not very big. I bet, I mean, yes, it came in a mailer box like we just saw in the UKG graded example, but to still get a 9.5 is very difficult to do. So, you know, maybe that's what happens with a lot of these typically expensive vintage collection releases. If they are high graded and graded, like Ahsoka or Shea Vizsla or some of the Fets and things like that, maybe those continue to hold that price premium versus ungraded examples, which have shown to be declining in price for the most part. Now, for some recent releases, you know, we had the droids, Target exclusive droids Boba Fett continues to command pretty good dollars. I expect this number to drop pretty dramatically as the release waves and the manufacturing batches hit the U.S. market, probably sometime this month in January. But this one was for two of them that sold for 120 U.S. dollars. Best offer accepted. The best offer accepted was 112. So let's call it, you know, roughly about $60 a piece. It was plus $12 shipping, so 124. It's $62 a piece, or about, let's call it 4 times retail. Man, it's four. Yeah, about 4 times retail. That's about 4 times retail. That's come down though. We saw a couple of them that sold at $100 plus, so $80 plus. So it's come down a little bit, but I think that's going to continue to drop as those waves hit the market. You know, the droids Boba Fett and R2 hit the market. The C-3PO has already dropped pretty dramatically. It's back down to almost retail price now. Here's another one pointed out by Gerard Coyle, who's a subscriber to the channel, and I thought I'd throw it in here because I thought this was hilarious. This was for all three of them, the droids Boba Fett, R2, and C-3PO. Really nice card backs, and they look to be in pretty excellent condition, but somebody bid this up on December 30th all the way to $246 US, 182 pounds plus shipping. So I just find that hard to believe that was a UK buyer that was willing to pay that number, but I could be wrong. My guess is it was probably a pretty well-to-do U.S. buyer that was willing to pay that and was getting anxious and not willing to wait for the new releases to get over here. And that seems to be the case lately, right? With the Bad Batch 4-pack, which we'll talk about in a second, with these droids figures, any of the animated clone style figures that really are not going to hit the U.S. probably till early, you know, this year, March timeframe. It just seems like people who are anxious are willing to pay up instead of being patient and waiting for those to get here to the U.S. You're also seeing a lot of the Bad Batch 4-packs being separated and selling them separately. And the price points are kind of all over the map. But this was the Captain Rex VC208. And it's nice to see that unpunched. One thing that Boss Bounty did touch on in his video with, you know, covering the 4-pack is that even straight out of the sealed larger box, you're seeing damage on the card backs, and this one had very slight damage around the hang tab. That seems to be the area. I don't know if it's a manufacturing defect or what, but that is a very common problem that I've seen for those individual figures that have been pulled out of the 4-pack and being sold individually, is that they have a lot of wear right around the hang tab. I don't know what's causing it. I don't know if it was a manufacturing or packing issue or what, but it's a very common problem. This one seemed to be in a little bit better shape. This was clone Captain Gray from that 4-pack. That one sold for $64.99. 2 of them sold, one's still available. And you know, you can see here, even straight out of those 4-pack packaging, the card backs do have edge wear. So, you know, for those of you looking for super ultra mint card backs, you know, buying a sealed shipper box doesn't, you know, is not necessarily going to guarantee you perfect condition for these, because they just have, because of the packing process or something, or maybe they're shifting inside of the larger box during shipping. But you know, they are seeing some edge wear and some wear around the hang tabs for all of those unpunched Bad Batch 4-pack exclusives. So just keep that in mind as you're buying and, you know, pre-ordering and that kind of thing. So anyway, that's just kind of my quick look at some recent items that sold, as well as kind of a discussion on what's going to happen potentially in 2022 in terms of outlook for the vintage collection. But there's definitely kind of a at a crossroads, I think, for the vintage collection in terms of resale items. Obviously, the new release schedule that's coming out this year is as strong as it's ever been, and I'm very excited about it. But for those of you who are sitting on a lot of TVC 1.0, I do think that the current price drop that we've seen over the last 3 months is reason for concern if you're looking to sell those, because I don't know what's going to happen, but I think we'll know pretty quick, probably by March, whether this is going to be the new normal with deflated prices for TVC 1.0, or if prices start to creep back up again. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.